Good day, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you are tuning in. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 38 of Run It Back. I'm Menelik Fernandez. I'm your host. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I start every episode the same. So, as always, I will start this one the same. Run It Back. Basically, the premise is we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak. So we talk about like what worked, how we prepared, what we would do differently, screen coverages, matchups, all that kind of fun stuff that coaches are into. And they say hindsight is 2020. This gives us a good idea to look at ourselves and examine what we liked, what we didn't like about the game. Today we are taking a look at Adams Street Academy versus Maspeth High School. This game was played in March of 2020, just before the shutdown, actually. And I'll leave it to our guests to give you a little bit of context about the background of the game. But one of the things that I've very, very much enjoyed about this show is having guests on who were coaches within the game that we are examining. So this week, we're very fortunate to have Coach Brian Shea from Adams Street Academy join us. So we'll be running it back from Adams Street perspective. I'm going to try to do you a little bit of justice, sir. Coach Shea played 4 years at Brooklyn College, which you can combine with 4 years of coaching at Brooklyn College. He had an overall record of 144 and 77 while he was there between being a player and being a coach, which is a 660 win percentage. They had 8 consecutive postseason appearances, 2 Kuniak championships with subsequent NCAA tournament appearances, and 3 ECAC tournament appearances. He spent 5 years in the New York Knicks organization as both a camp coach and a field marketer. He's been the head coach of Adams Street for 5 years, which led to the first division championship in the school's history. He's got a 59-19 record against PSAL schools, which is incredible in my opinion. He was also ranked Coach of the Year by NYCBasketball.com. And that beanie that he's wearing is to represent that he's also the beanie is the Adam Street. The shirt that he's wearing is to represent that he is the 16U head coach of the Jayhawks organization. And sir, just so much thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you having you here. I don't know why I can't speak today. I'm sorry. I'm intimidated by the great Brian Shea. Really appreciate having you here, and I'm really excited for this one because for those of you who don't know, Coach Shea and I are kind of friends. He kind of talks to me once in a while, but he shares a lot of really, really unique stuff that I think is different and cool and neat. And I've learned quite a few really interesting things from him. So Coach Shea, really happy to have you here, man. Excited for this.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on such an esteemed program.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Flattery will get you everywhere, sir. So give us a little bit of background about like your conference or league, when this game is taking place during the season, if you've played them before during the season, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, obviously New York City is, it's a very expansive city in terms of basketball, and there's a lot of different levels. Like a lot of New York State has, I think they go up to Class D, but in New York City we only go up to, there's double A, and B, and it goes by basically what your school size is. So our school, Adams Street Academy is actually a campus, which is something that people that are not from New York City would probably never be familiar with. It means that there's more than one school in the building. So
Okay.
within the school, within the building that my boys go to school, there's 3 schools. There's 3 separate high schools. One's specifically a special education high school. Another one's an all girls high school, and then where my boys go to school is called the Urban Assembly School for Law and Justice. So it's New York City basketball is definitely different in public school in terms of like where the size differentials in schools and where kids are able to get into, and whether there are some schools that are open enrollment and anybody can go to, but a school like mine is what's considered a lottery system to get in. So it's really like basically whoever shows up. Like I can't go out and like watch middle school games and like, hey, I really want you to come check out this school. I can tell them, hey, apply and really hope that you get in, but it's not like I can see, Menelik playing basketball in an eighth grade league and say, all right, you're definitely coming here next year. It's just not the way that my school system is set up. So it's definitely different to be able to, or to have to compete against schools that are open enrollment and can get anybody in. So
Right.
it's definitely been a different situation. And in New York City public school basketball, you only need to be 500 to make the playoffs. So every playoff, especially in the A and the B divisions, are basically at the NCAA tournament. I think one of my years that we were in the playoffs, there was like 58 teams in
Oh,
the
wow.
in the bracket. So it's definitely different. Came into a program that before I had gotten there, I think the school had been open about 14 years, and they had 3 wins. They had 11 wins in 14 years, and we had, when I was fortunate when I came in. I came in with some friends of mine who also played in college who wanted to, help me out with coaching and stuff like that. And since we've gotten there, our first year we broke the school win record. We had 15 wins in our first year, and then in my 5 years there, we're 95 and I don't know, something 94. We have 95 wins in 5 years. So we've done a really a good job of trying to build a culture of the program and things like that. So I'm proud of that. And unfortunately, like you said, the playoff game that we're gonna run back, we won that game, which was a quarterfinal game, and the city got shut down 2 days before the semifinals. So we never got to see what would happen, but we were playing
Yeah.
really, really good basketball for us. So.
I know quite a few coaches that have had that experience. Just a couple points from what you're saying. Menelik in grade 8 being recruited to you probably wouldn't have been good. I plateaued around grade 8, so everybody else grew and I was stuck there.
You'd be surprised about what I've had walking the tryout. So I'm
And
sure
then
I would have taken you in grade 8.
I also just want to say, 95 wins over the years and 59 and 19 against PSAL. Like those are incredible marks for a school that had 11 wins before, like you're saying, total.
That might be after 4 years. That 59 and 19. We might be up to 70 something. No.
Amazing. All right, so let's talk about this game. Like I said, had you played them before? Where are you in the season? You said it's a quarterfinal. Where are you record-wise? And how are you preparing for something like this at the high school level? What goes into preparation for you? Are you doing scouting reports?
Maspeth is a really good B division program. They're always among the top teams in the city. We had played them earlier in a preseason team camp at the College of Staten Island, and it was one of those situations where it was our third game of the day, theirs too, but we were playing a back-to-back, and they jumped on us early and trying to kind of send a message to my guys, because I had a really new team. We had lost our best player from the previous 2 seasons, and he was one of the best guards in the city. So we were still looking for our identity most of the preseason and into the season. So it was one of those games where I pulled everybody. I went 5 for 5 subs, and they ended up killing us in that preseason game. I think they beat us by like 30, and they were talking junk and things like that. And I think going into that playoff game, that was to our advantage, because the Maspeth team might have been looking at it as, oh, we already beat this team by 30. They're not that good, da da da. But ultimately, I think any coach knows that when you're going through a preseason, that often that stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
I would tell my guys every offseason, I don't care what we win in the summer and in the fall. Like, I care about where we are in the spring, towards the springtime when playoffs are all around. So we hadn't seen them. We hadn't played against them. They're a Queens team. We're in Brooklyn, so we wouldn't have seen them unless they were it was a crossover, like we were playing a non-league game. We hadn't played them that season. I had seen them a little bit on tape. Obviously, as the playoffs came closer, I started like looking at the bracket when it came out, and they actually, Maspeth, similar to us, we were the 13 seed in the playoffs, and we went to the 4 seed, and we beat the 4 seed by, I think, by 14 points or something like that in their gym. Maspeth had also upset a higher seed in the playoffs. So, it was right after the game. I'm friendly with Coach Shea, who's a really good coach, and he called me as like, "Do we have a date on Saturday?" I was like, "We sure do."
We're gonna dance.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you. And so we had a really good idea. They had a really good player who was one of the leading scorers in the city. Big, about 6'5", 6'6" wing kid who was really uncommon for our level, especially in terms of strength and athleticism. So we knew that a lot went through him. So primarily, that was our focus in terms of what we were going to do with him, how we were going to change it up, and very much on some. We're going to see what we can make other people on their team do to adjust our game plan.
All right, so talk about that process a little bit. Let's go from general to a little bit more specific. You recognize they have a player that's uncommon for your level. Do you typically produce like reports for your guys? Are you just doing walkthroughs in the time period? Are you able, you mentioned that there's film on them. When I was coaching at the high school level, we had no film on most of our opponents. So we had to like sort of go in and scout and watch them, or, know somebody on the team. How are you figuring out actions? All that stuff. Like, what are you putting together for your guys to prepare?
I think when I first started as a head coach, I didn't realize that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was coming from college where I was used to scouting reports and film breakdowns. So like it's hard to present that to players that aren't necessarily used to that kind of attention to detail, I guess would be the best way to put it. So I think as the years went on, I kind of, shied away from showing too much film and things like that, because ultimately that's for me. Um, I might tell them, this is what they like to do. This is where he likes to get the ball. And we might watch some clips before practice, because before every practice we would have study hall where they'd be doing their homework, and we would watch some film. But I kind of shied away from like the long film sessions and the stopping and pointing it out and things like that, because I feel like kids would get lost, and it was easier to shoot on the court while it was active. So the film aspect in New York City is, it's not like we have a cross. I don't think crossover exists anymore. Huddle, where people store their film and anyone can pull it. It's more like the coaches that take it seriously, and who you can call and about it. And then there are some coaches in New York City basketball who are, just a teacher in the building who thought it would be cool to coach basketball, and they're not necessarily passionate about it or qualified. And
Right.
you calling them for their opinion would be counterproductive sometimes. So,
Right.
it was just more of a knowing the program's history, how they like to play. And, I spoke to a couple of coaches who had played them, and, what they thought, and basically taking what they had said and how it fit into to what we do. Because I'm not a big believer in trying to reinvent the wheel and do something completely different than we normally do for an entire game plan. Maybe as a change up and see how long you can stay with it. But I don't really think that you can, well, we're going to throw this at them, and we had never done it before, and like we're trying to learn something new for one game. I think that's tough, especially for high school kids.
So what were you going through in the practices leading up? What do those practices look like for Coach B. Shea?
We that going into last season, we had realized that, like I said, we had lost a really good guard who did everything for us. So, but we had added a couple pieces who, a couple kids that just transferred into the school, and we realized that we weren't extremely big, but we had a lot of guys who could like all push the ball, handle the ball, like we didn't have a point guard. My best true point guard was a freshman, and although he started playing games at 14 years old, sometimes it really depends on the first couple minutes. So it was kind of like anybody who got the ball could push it and run. And we practiced like that a lot.
Right.
Short clock drills and a lot of conditioning with the ball. So we just did a lot of that going into through the whole playoff run. And when it came down to the last couple of days, I think I want to say we played our Sweet 16 game on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we had a couple of days of practice before our quarterfinal game. And first day was just like a normal practice. We did a lot of our competitive stuff and transition. And then as we started really focusing on the game plan, it was, what do they like, the player that they had that was really good, his name is Max. So like what do they like to do for Max? Where does he like to get the ball? What are his tendencies? We realized that as strong as he was heavy on his right hand. He liked, if he was going back to his left, he was going to push off, things like that. So it was more of a just being conscious of what he liked to do, and then how we were going to play him defensively was important. We might
Right.
junk it up a little bit. We might throw a box and one, we might throw a triangle and two on him and a ball handler, and then you'll see there's a story behind who started and why, but we just came out face guarding him, and he got really frustrated because he wasn't touching the ball. And one of the things that I've always believed in is that in New York City basketball, you don't see a lot of teams play man to man. There could be varying reasons for that. It could be because coaches can't teach it, or kids in the city can't shoot, and zone is just easier, and some teams just want to run around. So we've been predominantly man to man since the first day I got there. So I knew that he would work really hard to get the ball, and he would be the kind of player that would, if you junked it up, he would try to work harder to get the ball, which is often detrimental to their team, which is kind of what we wanted. So it was just little things like that as we focused on, like, they weren't going to run anything specific for him because their league in Queens is generally a lot weaker than ours, so they don't play a lot of teams that they have to match basketball IQ acumen with. It's just a matter of their team is better than the team that they're playing. So
Right.
we really wanted to focus on making it a hard game for him, and especially since he was a senior, and when you get frustrated in what could be your last game, it could go one way or the other, and
For sure.
that's what we really preached the whole time.
So let me steer it here a little bit. Then you mentioned not a lot of teams play a lot of man to man. I noticed they zoned you a lot, and one of the things that when I sing your praises to others is that I always think that you're pretty creative with things that you do against zones, and you're pretty creative with things that you do defensively to shape other teams. You knew they were probably going to play a lot of 2-3. I see that in here.
Mm-hmm.
How often throughout the season are you teaching different variations of the way that you want to attack versus teaching a certain way to attack? If that's clear, I could try to restate that. If that's like, are you sticking to like one specific way of attacking the 2-3, or are you giving them all kinds of variations, multiple reads to look for within the way that you're doing it? And then the second thing that I wanted to ask is, what specifically did you identify as your strengths on the offensive side that you wanted to go to a lot? You mentioned what you wanted to prevent them doing. What did you want to get to?
Well, firstly, I'm a big believer in when you're coaching against zones, and like you said, like in New York City, we see a lot of zones. So like I've had to like really narrow down like what I like against zone, and like be creative. Some of the stuff that we can show or we'll see is like stuff that I've either taken or I've invented.
Right.
Um, and I'm big on, and I stress them all the time, is that you have to make them make a decision. You have to make the defense make a decision in the zone. I think a lot of times people, even if you're running a good zone continuity, like you might get open, but you're not necessarily making the defense make a decision between one thing or the other. And one of the things that whatever we're putting in, and any of the stuff that we run, oftentimes is going to it's going to come down to two things. If you come off and you see this is where you go, because they can't play both. And I tell my guys all the time, like, you can't, if we do this right, you're going to make them do something, and then we're just going to do the other thing. And it has to be open, because that person can't guard both things.
Right.
As long as we do what we're supposed to do. So whether it's an overload or a specific set or things like that, like I'm very big on, making them make a decision. And I tell the guys all the time, like, I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but like I have a PhD in making a defense move. Like I'm intentional with how I know where they're going to go and why this is going to work. You know what I mean? What's going to be there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that, I think that just becomes a byproduct of, this pandemic year is the first season I've not had a basketball season since I was in third grade, I think. So,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of basketball, and always being a student of the game. So like, I know that just through watching things like that, you pick up on patterns, and you see things throughout a season or a game or on film. So I tell guys all the time, like, I know this is going to be there. And oftentimes as a play, like when we're about to run it, this is going to be there. This play is going to be there, or this look is going to be there. So it's just a matter of, I'm big on making the team that we're playing, like, make a decision. If you're going to tell me where your defense is always going to be, then I can put us in a situation where, we're going to counteract that, 9 times out of 10. And
Right.
so what we were looking for, I think our strength, like I said, like, we had a lot of guys who, we weren't a great shooting team, but like, you had to respect us. We had enough guys who could, we didn't have any shooters, but we had guys who could make a shot, so like, you couldn't necessarily, actually we had, one pretty dominant, not dominant shooter, but that's what he did. But you had to like be aware of where a lot of guys were. Like, our big kids would shoot a three, our guards, and one of the mantras of my program is shoot the ball before you turn it over. Give us a chance. Like,
Right.
shoot the ball. Like, it's better than you throwing it away for a live ball turnover. I'd rather a miss in a scrum for a layup for offensive rebound than I would, you hesitating and traveling. Or you hesitating and throwing the ball away because somebody thought you were going to shoot and they went to crash.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I agree, 100%.
Shoot the ball before you turn it over. Let it go. Don't ask why. Let it fly. So we say it all the time. But we had our interior. We had a lot of good interior passers, um, and what was our big man, Samil Mello. Great touch, good mid range. You couldn't leave him open at the free throw line. He was one dribble and a floater all the time. So we knew that if we got the ball to the middle of the floor, we were in good shape. Or if we put him in a situation where he was like the decision, where like, you're gonna leave him, we were gonna get a wide open three, or you're gonna guard the three, you're gonna leave him open. So we just knew that, we move the ball well. I think that's always been a staple of our program. Like, we're really big on the extra passes and just trying to play basketball the right way. Like, I think that, I played at Catholic school growing up, so I think that our program plays a little bit more like a Catholic school might in New York City. A little bit more fundamentally sound, focused on little things rather than, just all out athleticism and different style of basketball. So I think that we do a really good job of playing the right way, making extra pass, trying to run our stuff. Like, obviously we're not perfect, no team is, but we're really focused on that. So especially when you're playing against a zone, you get the ball moving, and you make the right pass, and you have the zone scrambling. We do a really good job of that. And then, a lot of our baskets in that game, in the Maspeth game, came off an extra pass, or came off a good read, or, things like that. So those are things that we really harp on.
So you mentioned, let it fly, don't ask why. What
Reverse
are your theories sort of on like pace of play, shot selection, and I mean shot selection like area of the floor, not like who's taking it, uh, and like how many to the glass for offensive rebounds, all that kind of stuff. And then second part of the question, because I can never just ask one single question, I always have to compound things and make it difficult for my guests, obviously. But second part of that is when you look back at what you delivered to your guys information wise and the theories on those things that you're about to give us right now, how do you feel looking at this particular game you did relative to that scout and those theories compared to like what you guys want?
I think every season changed a little bit differently, but in general, I'm not a big fan of mid-range shots. There's very varying reasons. Maybe it could be because as a player, I wasn't very good at them. So, I just you kind of mold your team in the image you think of yourself. I just don't think that you're very rarely ready to shoot a mid-range shot, right? So, and I'm just not a big proponent of stopping while on the move, especially in high school. If it's not practice, not if it's part of your philosophy, it's what you do. That's great. But I think that a catch and shoot three is better than a mid range shot for a high school kid, even if regardless of what that kid's ability may be as a shooter. I just
Right.
think that with time and space, you have a lot more confidence in yourself in general. So we're big on layups and taking layups and wide open threes if we can do it. I hate the 2.5, where a kid will shoot with his foot on the line or his heel on the line, and like you're just taking a really long two. It makes no sense. And I knew that, like, our culture was starting to sink in a couple years ago when I stopped having to coach that in practice, and the older kids like, yo, we don't take those shots. It's just bad.
We
Coaches
don't do.
get mad. Don't do it. Like it just it doesn't make sense. So this year, like I said earlier, we were very big on, we were trying to run on every play. Obviously, like, any coach that says that knows that, like, it's easy to say that, but kids have to want to run. And for the most part, like, we were pretty good at, we weren't 7 seconds or less, but we definitely try to put pressure on you from the time we got the ball, between whoever got the outlet or rebound, pushing the ball on their own, or, we were big on your first look when you get the balls up the court. Because we would throw a baseball pass or two a game, where we would catch teams slipping. So I think that we did a pretty good job of doing that in this game. I mean, I think at some point it became more of a half-court game, and we did late in the second quarter when we went on a run that, like, kind of propelled us into halftime. We did a really good job of executing, and that came as a proponent of our pressure. Uh,
Right.
and standing. Speaking on that, we sent my goal is send everybody to the glass, because we are going to pick up full court 9 times out of 10 anyway. And one of the things I try to teach our guys was tagging. So, like, when you're crashing to the boards, like, whoever you touch, that's who you stay with. And so as soon as they get the ball the other way, we're ready to go. Like, that's who your man is, because we, in a man-to-man team, we switched everything anyway.
Right.
So we were going to be in a situation where you are a lot. And I told guys, if we all crash the glass and we get beat long, like, if you crash and you're touching somebody and he runs past you, that's your fault. You're supposed to go with him, right? But if we get beat on a where we all crash and there's a long rebound and we just give up layup, that's me. That's not you. That's on me, because this is what I said, right?
Right. Right.
But if the shot goes up and you don't crash and you would have gotten that rebound, I'm extremely upset,
Right.
because you're not listening. Like, you're not. I don't want the in between. We can't be in between. We're everybody's crashing, and then, or or one person can crash. And when you do that, like, I find it's difficult, and especially in a team where it's like we are all 5'9" to 6'3", 6'4". So we didn't really have straight positions. So, like, if I say, oh, 3, 4, 5 has to get back, and then we come in the game and people don't know what number they are, nobody knows what's going on. I just felt it was easier for us to we're all crashing all year, because if we scored, we were going to be in one of our presses, and I'm pretty sure we showed a lot of them in that game, or we were just going to be in full court man, and either way, you knew where we were at. Whereas we weren't in a situation where 3 guys got back and then we scored, and then 3 people weren't set up for the press, and that's just philosophy based. I found it easier to. That's kind of like just simplifying it, maybe where I might have tried to make it more difficult when I first started, and now I'm a big proponent of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Uh, so
You and me both. So in hindsight, from the things that you've now stated, do you feel like, looking at this game, watching it again, you were able to successfully accomplish a lot of the things that you preach, that you would have reiterated in the 4 days leading up? I mean, obviously you guys got the W, so that helps, but, like, what what are your thoughts looking back at it? Was there anything missing that maybe you'd go back and re-stress or do differently?
I definitely think we did a really good job on the offensive glass, because one of our guys I think he had 30 that game, and I didn't know that until after the game, because he had gotten so many, like, little offensive rebound, put back. I think he got a couple tip ins. So we did a really good job of crashing the glass. I think that we're a better offensive rebounding team than defensive rebounding team for whatever reason, and that's probably where they hurt us a little bit. But in terms of our goal to put pressure on them, early and often, and be aggressive in transition, we definitely did that. I think we did a good job of getting on the offensive glass and staying within ourselves. And like I said, one of our goals was to really be constantly attached to their best player. And, I think that only made it easier because we were crashing. And, um, and, 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 constantly tagging up, and we were switching everything. And one of the things that we identified too was how he played the bottom of the zone, and how we could attack it. And I think that we did a good job of running stuff to his side a couple times where we knew that he was going to be aggressive looking for a steal or a fly out and things like that. And we kind of just played behind him and got a couple easy baskets that way.
Right. So the player that you were mentioning, just as you were saying, is Matthew Bradshaw, who did have 8 offensive rebounds, and he also had 8 2-point shots. So they were probably all resulting in quick putbacks, right? So
Yes, most of them. He had a really good game. He was one of those kids that when we speak about the season, he had transferred into the school, nicest kid in the world, got hurt in a game in November, didn't tell me until like the second week of December. He's walking around like an old man at practice, can't move, and that's it. Like his game was so, he's probably our most athletic kid, explosive. So his game was like taken away from him, and he was just too nice to tell me that he needed to not play for a little while. So, he sat out a couple games and he got hurt again, and we had a couple kids like that where we didn't really hit our stride until the end of the season, which I mean is obviously everybody's goal, but like I don't think anybody, on our level necessarily knew that, or thought we would make it, as far as we did, all the way to the Final Four because we never really had our whole team playing at once. Um,
right.
so that was a big thing for us too.
So let's talk in game a little bit here. I noticed. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I coached high school as well, and I would say that the vast majority of coaches that I coached against when I coached high school don't make a lot of adjustments in game. Whether that's from, as you mentioned, maybe they're just a teacher who's doing it and they don't have the know-how, or maybe they don't believe in their personnel to be able to make those adjustments, or maybe they're unprepared. There's a vast array of reasons why. I noticed that you do make a lot of adjustments. So let's talk about in game in terms of, are you statting anything on the side that you feel is pertinent? Are you, like, in this game you're up 12 at the half? Are you looking at anything particular on the box score when you're going into the half that's like a merit to you that you're thinking about making adjustments? Are you, what are the cues that, like, if I'm not mistaken, I have clips on. I think you played a 2-1-2. I think you played a 2-2-1. I think you played a half court run and jump in there. And you definitely played some full court man in there. And I think I have clips on all of them, if I'm not mistaken. But, like, what is causing you to show the different looks? Like, what are you doing in game? Basically, give us the rundown from the top to the bottom of how are you adjusting? What's important to you? What are you looking at to make those adjustments?
Um, I think overall as a coach, I'm very big on uniformity. So I think that oftentimes your if you watch us throughout over the course of a season, or even if you're a team from our division and um, you're used to playing against us, like you might see a lot, but you probably won't see the same thing twice or for very long, right? So it might look like we do a lot of different things, which we do. I'm in terms of uniformity, all of our defenses are colors. So like as we go through them, if I see one specific, I'll tell you which color it is. And a lot of our stuff like might look different, but we're all looking for the same thing. They're
Right.
all looking, especially our traps and our
So
drop
you mean like you're looking at trapping in the same part of the floor
same part of
with
the
the
floor or
same.
same setup or it's just about, you know, maybe that group of kids out there might be better suited to run this, that this specific trap or I'm big on like I don't like to stay in something that you can adjust to. So if we got on a run and you call a timeout, I'm not coming out in the same thing
Right.
that you're trying to adjust in, right? You might not see that the rest of the game because I know that you have something for that, and we can kind of go away from that and or maybe just spring it when we want to. So in terms of doing things like that, like it's more of a where do we think we can get them? Coming out of a timeout, are we going to be aggressive or are we going to sit back? You know, I might be playing chess against myself in the game, but like I like that looking at it like that as well. So
Right.
um, in terms of what we're looking to accomplish and at throughout halftime, we don't have anyone starting on the bench. everyone who works with me is a volunteer, so I'm not going to ask anybody to sit there and jot stuff down. A couple of times during the season, we had a kid who had torn his ACL in the preseason last year, so he wasn't playing. So he did some things, but it's not like when I coached in college where guys would have we would get the halftime printout and we'd be able to look at, damn, we're getting killed on the boards or things like that. It's
Right.
more of a field thing. Being able to address certain guys doing certain things during the game and hold them accountable. I might know that we're turning the ball over too much or we are getting killed on the boards or things like that, but it's not necessarily a physical stat as much as it is a feel. And that's one thing that, as a player, I was never extremely talented, but I always felt like I had a good grasp of the game and like a good way to like look at it and make adjustments. So I think that's just carried over to my coaching career starting.
Makes sense. Like it. Let's dive into a little bit of film unless anybody has some questions for Coach Shea. Uh, so for each one of these, just give me a second as I get set up here. For each one of these, I will play it, try to describe it as best I can for anybody who might be listening instead of watching later on. And then I will rewind it and go back through it with you, and you can give me the rundown as to what it is. Are we good with this size? Can you see that?
Yeah, I mean, if you can make the video bigger, it would be good. And just for some context, we had this was a Saturday, so it was like a 2 o'clock game, I believe. So we had a morning walkthrough and at our school, and which was about probably a 20-minute train ride from the gym that we're in the game. And my best player, senior captain, leading scorer, forgot his sneakers
Nice.
at school. So he did not start the game. He's not even there at this point. He had to go back to school in a cab, come back in a cab, have somebody wait for him to get there to open the school because no one wear his size. So I wish that I had a clip before the game. I was so bothered by that. Like I was just kind of like bouncing into a wall before the game
What do you mean you forgot your shoes? Like,
yeah, like how do you like it's the one thing you need. Like shoes, sneakers and shorts and jerseys. It's not hockey where you have 15 pieces of equipment. So that actually helped with who we started on their best player and why. So the kid that started on him wasn't even normally a starter and really didn't play a whole lot. And I remember at the walkthrough, I came up to him and I talked to him. I said, listen, like, you're going to get a chance in this game to go in and you're going to face guard, you're going to face guard Max and that's just going to be your only job. I don't want you worried about helping. I don't want you worried about anything but staying with him. And he drew an early push off on him for an offensive foul. He did a really good job. So it was kind of like fortuitous that my best player forgot his sneakers.
nice.
But continue.
Like it. All right, so they're playing a 2-3. This is an attacking their 2-3 clip is how I titled it. I think there was an interesting cut to me here with the two guys coming across the baseline towards the ball side on the offensive left. There's a baseline drive, a miss. I think the ball ends up going out of bounds. I'm just wondering what you see, what you would do better for the clip itself. It just looks like a real standard, get a guy on the nail type clip and see what you can do. But I like this cut where you circle underneath and come to the new ball side. And I'm wondering if that's by design and what you like.
Yeah. So this was basically kind of like an adjustment to a set play that we run, which we call smash. And because my best player forgot his sneakers, we didn't run it because he would normally be the guy that started at the free throw line. So this is just about like we knew that guarding the ball right now is the player I mentioned before, Max, and we knew that he played really wide, and we were going to be able to get behind him often. And he can't see how high he is there, and that was just something that we were very conscious of going into the game. So we knew that we were going to be able to get to the baseline. I'm a big proponent of getting the ball to the short corner against the zone because it's really hard to guard if you do it right. And I think that Matthew was in a rush there. If he catches that cleanly, that's a bingo. That's a baseline rip, and he probably gets there early. He still gets there, but if he would have caught that cleanly, he definitely would have gotten by him pretty easily. So it was just Matthew being in the rush, didn't catch the ball very well, but he did what we wanted to do in terms of. I think if you play back a little bit, one of the things that we drilled often too was 45 cuts on baseline drive. So the weak side wing is a freshman, and
This guy here.
yep, and he's probably not going to do it as well as he probably should have. But he's going to eventually cut or space out. So we had either one of those there.
I like this. The reason I brought this up is, and I asked if it's by design. So when you're in this original formation, that's like a 3 across the free throw line extended.
2-3. It's a 2-3 versus a 2-3.
Yeah, and then when you go to reverse it, the guy that was on your nail or on your free throw line, plus the wing from the far side, both coming. I feel like there's a lot you can do with that, right? Like you can get a hammer screen on this side, you can get the penetration and drop off, like you were saying. You can get the ball to the short corner for a shorter jump shot if they don't have the range. I just thought there was a lot of interesting stuff that you could do with it. So liked the set. What do we got next? We got
Nice shirt.
so one of my favorite things, you knew it was going to come up. I think there's probably 2 or 3 examples of it, but you are definitely somebody who does something unique against a 2-3 with the corner box set. So basically, against a 2-3, you run a box set where all 4 players are on the ball side of the floor. You've given me a lesson or two about this before, and you end up with a 3-point shot here. I'll go through it one more time again. So the alignment is basically strong side block and elbow, and then the 45 and the corner all on the strong side. You get an exchange cut, which is like an X happening, and then you get the guy from the elbow coming straight into the space between the 2-3. And it creates, as you said in your description earlier, all kinds of decision-making times where guys have to figure out what they're doing. So take us through the set a little bit. What do you think about the shot? And
this is so when I first started my second year, we had 1 side box play, and we scored on it. I think one day I want to go back and look at every game, but I think we had to score 60 points on that play throughout that season. Just because, one, it's extremely different, and we run it man or zone, it doesn't matter. And then each year we've kind of added a couple where we're gonna adjust to it, and you can't sit on that one play anymore. And so this one is actually something I think we put in during the playoffs. All of our baseline plays are named after colleges. I believe this is Rutgers. And it's just to basically make the defense play in front of you, and the guy in the corner just mind your business and wait for your turn. Because the third cut is always going to be the guy that draws attention. So the exchange, people look around, and the Ronnie diving from the elbow is what drags somebody down with him. And
right.
That's perfect. It's just being patient. And then again, you might not see that play, the rest of the game.
As I mentioned, there's like, I think I have 2 other, maybe at least 1 other variation, but I think there's 2 other variations that I pulled up, and it's just interesting to me how they all cause somebody to make a decision and pull in one direction type deal. We got Chris is coming in. Awesome. So next one is an easy one. Transition threes, yay or nay?
Yeah, for sure. That might not be the best one in terms of what we're doing, what we're looking for. In this situation, that closeout, pretty good closeout because Elijah's left-handed. But ideally, we want to attack that closeout, and that should be a baseline drive. And it probably, in how we like to play, I'd like this to be a baseline, either a reverse layup or a baseline drift to the opposite corner.
Right.
But I'm not mad at that, especially for that person. Elijah, shoot the ball. I tell him all the time, he's one of those kids who didn't always believe in himself as much as I believed in him. Like,
right.
that's why you're out there. And he's a senior, and he played really well. And he's one of those guys that it was hard to, you'd forget about him, and then he would have 3 threes. So and that's something I always told him to do is like I don't want you thinking too much about making decisions. I want you shooting the ball.
Right. Do you, so you mentioned you want to run out all the time. I'm assuming because you're between 5'7" and 6'3" as a team, like you said, anybody can bust out dribble. Do you send particular players to particular sides of the floor all the time or similar spots? Or are you looking for similar spots to be filled by anyone? And like you mentioned, you do a lot of drilling of fast break type stuff. Like if you were drilling this in practice, would you say, hey, good shot, maybe drive is a better one?
Yeah, I think that we would talk about good shot, but maybe like I said, I try my best to as many coaches do. I think now speak in just short terms. So we call a baseline drive a bingo.
Mhm.
So anytime I might in practice, if I saw that shot, I go Elijah, good shot, but maybe look to bingo there. The bingo's there, which is something we often say to guys because guarding the baseline is in any defense is hard unless your defense is designed to send you baseline.
Right.
So it forces a lot of decisions. But again, like I'm not mad at that shot. Especially with how we were playing the style of play that we played last season. I'm not really mad at that shot. It's a good shot. He caught it in rhythm. He didn't take it just to take it. We tell our guys all the time, you shoot the ball with confidence and like because you think it, because you know it's going in, not just because you're open, type of thing.
Right. This is um this is just a weird one defensively where like you can see my tag is scrambled rotation concepts or help spots that you're helping from. They get a blown up handoff action, and then they end up with the ball back in the right spot. They drive and kick to the nail, get the ball to the second side of the floor. But I did notice in this that it looked like he kind of pulled in on the drive and helped from ball side. Kind of turned into a stunt, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But then second side, it looks like your rotations are a little bit weird out there. So talk to me about how you would like to close that ultimately after the pass from the nail and who it should be and your help concept, all of it.
Can we play that back?
Yep. So here it is from the beginning.
It's a good pulse in the gap stunt. Terrible footwork. Justice. Well, see, this is a situation where he would be doing something differently if he wasn't guarding Max. So if we reverse a little bit, maybe to zero sketch stop. Justice in a normal situation, regardless of where he is, Justice should be kind of where he's about to drive to. We play up the line. So he should be close shouldered, up the line, ready to plug with his hip. But Justice is the kid who started the game on him. He was told face guard, don't worry about help. So even what he's doing right now is too much because ultimately I'd rather zero make a contested layup than Max touch the ball. And that was our goal. So we don't. This is against all Adam Street defense regulations. We never show our numbers to the ball and help unless it's a charge situation. So, but when you're plugging a gap, we don't show numbers to the ball. We don't help with hands. We plug with our hips, and our goal is to be in such good up the line position that the drive is deterred before it happens.
And it's deterred just by like visually seeing you on the line, up the line.
Yeah, by our position because we're already halfway in the gap. So if we do what we're supposed to do right, and obviously it's never perfect in any defense, but you should be one step away from plugging a drive because of where you are. Because passes should go over you or under you, but never through you.
Right.
And that's one thing that we're really big on. So I guess that this help situation by Justice is not ideal. So we can keep going from there.
What about your MIG, your low man, your base, whatever you want to call them, being pulled over this far over? Would you typically have them on the rim line? Is this something that you would preach?
Yes. So in our defense, our again terminology. I think when I was first getting into coaching, I read something that John Beeline calls the basket the White House. Like you have to protect the White House. Um, we call a basket Mama. Like we always got
Telling me this, yeah.
we always got to protect Mama. At when like that's our biggest thing that we protect that. We always got to protect our mom. So uh, something different. It was obviously done to really hammer home how important it is to be in help and protect the basket and things like that. And I think it's important that they know that. So like during a game, you'll hear kids, I got mama, I got mama, I got mama. And I tell our guys all the time, like, it doesn't matter what it sounds like to everybody else. It matters what it sounds like to us.
Right.
Like
If it works.
you're telling people where you're at. Terrence being where he is where he's supposed to be. Maybe not necessarily in terms of where his man is, but I think he sees the drive and he's starting to help down early. And I believe weak side, that is Elijah, number 30, who should be sinking down. So we do a drill all the time. Phil sink body, where I got it from is a big Doug Novak thing, but he should be crashing down to help Terrence.
Love it. So when we were talking, just here. Right. So on this pass, what's your rotation getting to the other side? What are we looking at there?
It ideally, based on where they are, it should probably be the guy who's directly under the basket because he's the closest to it. But Ronnie sees it, and I think he just runs out. So not a great situation. Good high hands on the closeout, which is something that we want to deter passes right away. But his footwork was not ideal. Again, freshman. So I think he did a good job, and Terrence did a really good job stepping up there with high hands. And as a coach, I really do not like on-ball blocks.
So anybody who's challenging a shot, they got to be a rotating in defender.
Yeah, and if you're gonna challenge the shot one-on-one, I don't want you to swing. Everything's just jumping up straight up. We do the. I know Roy Hibbert really made that famous when he got into the league and had that good stretch a couple of years in a row where he just contested straight up. And we tell our guys all the time, if you jump straight up and you don't bring your hands down and they make the basket, give the guy a pat on the butt, because he made a good shot. But the second you bring your hands down, I'm upset. Because we tell our guys all the time, it's something that we drill and we hammer. So he did a really good job of keeping his hands up the whole way through. And I guess he brought his hands down right at the end on the pass to the, kind of the thing. But that's pretty good defense. He didn't touch him with his body, forced a bad pass. Elijah has his hands up and the ball goes through because, maybe that guy's in a rush. We did a decent job of getting our hands in the passing lanes and made it a little bit harder.
Changed and altered it for sure, right? I mean, that pass is horrible. I'm going to live with that happening all the time.
Good hustle by Matt to get back into that play and get to that ball too.
We got full court pressure. I put it in as a 2-1-2. It could have just been the shape of your man happening, but this is one of the varied coverages that you guys were doing.
They're in man. We're in blackout. It's full court, man.
So you just have your inbounder defender off playing center field, basically.
I think he just got lost thinking somebody else was going to pick him up. And like I said, it's just get the closest man. You're not looking for a number. You're looking for a jersey. Unless it's something specific, like, or somebody specific. So if you're, if, like I said, the kid's name that started the game was Justice, and Justice was guarding Max. If Justice isn't there, Ronnie better guard Max, and like I'm here, and let everybody know. Good job with keeping him out of the middle of the floor. We might be in either just straight full court man, or like you said, we do a little bit of a run and jump where it's thumbs up, thumbs down, depending on that changes whether it's on the pass or on the dribble. So we
see James, I can let in. I know James.
We did a good job of we were in shadow, which means that the guy that started on the behind the play is going to come for a backdrop.
So are you okay with 3 to the ball here? Because
no, but if you see Terrence gets out in the middle of the floor. So right. He thinks he's about to go for that trap, and then he sees Matthew, so he gets out, and he's ready to jump.
Gotcha. And then rotation wise from here, so you've had the trap happen. Like, how do you fill it out from there type deal? What's
you gotta talk through it and figure it out. So Ronnie should probably jump to the ball, and everyone should kind of get pushed over.
Gotcha. Uh, they end up making on that one, but
Tough
this is
basket, tough basket. The way that he finished, we'll live with that.
for sure. I mean, like he's going over his shoulder, throwing his body type
Yeah,
deal.
and that's not the guy we're worried about.
So another one, full court man. Just sort of like you guys get. I think you get thrown over the top here and get beat or whatever.
Yeah, Justice wasn't paying attention.
But
I remember that basket.
but talk to me about like the on-ball goals. Was there going to be any trapping here, rotations, etc. When you're playing this high up?
So in that situation, even if we're like I said, we have varying coverages. So blackout just means black is our man-to-man defense. Blackout means we're full court. We might not have been in the run and jump portion, but if we go back, his goal at half court is if your man is in front of you, you can always trap. So he's behind the play.
So you're talking about this side, or
even if we're not in thumbs down is the run and jump off the dribble. Even if we're not in that, he can go because his man's is in front of him. He's not behind him.
Nice.
But I just think that, in that situation, looking back, if, we had, if we go back a little bit, I'm telling Matthew that pass got there because you weren't close enough to him on the ball and you didn't have your hands up.
And you're also not looking. He's
right. Well, I'm telling Matthew's the guy on the ball. It's number 12.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So he's not putting, I think good defense starts with pressure on the pass. You can't, if he has time and space to see, like you can see the separation when he threw that pass, how far away the defender is. That's, Matthew could have done a better job of being a little bit closer to him. But again, it's never going to be perfect. Made a good pass. The kid Max is 6'6". Justice is a lot closer to 5'6" and 6'6". So that's going to happen.
This is another one of attacking their 2-3. So they're fairly set by the time you come down and let everything happen. This is fairly similar to one of the ones you and I have gone through that you run.
It is that. So we can go through that. This is one of my staples. We call this Virginia, and we run it on both sides of the court. There's Virginia and West Virginia. And if you stop it right here, guy with the ball is a 3-year player in my program at that point. We don't have a JV team, so you start in the program as a freshman if you make the team. He's taught. Again, this is a decision, right? So if the weak side guard, and they probably know this play, they know us enough. They might have seen it on film. If number 4 on Maspeth does what he does, the screener just flashes behind him, and you can't guard both. Right? It's unless they match up with the play, and oftentimes in a 2-3, that's not what you're gonna do, right? So right. You'll see he gives up. The guy who's at the elbow area, he gives up on on his idea to go set the screen, and he just becomes a flasher right away because they know like if they jump the thing, you're gonna be wide open behind it, and that's just a decision. Obviously, if the pop out guy had caught that ball, he gets a ball screen, and it creates another decision where. He would come off, he'd be attacking the elbow area and making this bottom guy make a decision. Do you stay at home? Who guards the cutter that's coming out of the baseline? It's hard to guard. And that's ties into what we spoke about at the start in terms of making them make decisions.
So I have the variation of this as well, where you do actually get into the ball screen on the reversal, which is one that you and I have gone through separately that I mentioned to you before, like I really like. So with this, you will most likely often end up with a mid-range shot. My question
on the flash, you mean?
Yeah. My question to you though is, you made the comment before about you're not often going to end up being in a set position for a catch and shoot in a mid-range, and I would think that you kind of are in this. Do you become?
Yeah, I mean, we just don't practice that shot as much as we practice threes in our drill. But I mean, they're there. And if you think about it, one of the reasons I changed this play, it used to be where if we go back, a little bit to the catch on the free throw line. It used to be where the bottom guy in the corner, see how they started in a tandem stack?
Yep.
He used to be in the short corner.
Yep.
And one of the reasons I moved him there is because when you're coming off that ball screen, if someone leaves out of the corner, the weak side or what would be the strong side defender would often see that and go with him and leave the corner open, which is fine with us. But on this catch, when Terrence takes his first dribble, if you get to that and stop it, Matthew's wide open on the for a quick bounce pass on his first catch on the baseline. So it didn't have to be that floater. That's also happens to be, he's kind of good at left-handed floaters, even though he's a right-handed player. He's one of those weird intricacies that as a player you develop. And I'm not mad at that shot. I don't like that it's contested, but we got the ball into the teeth of the defense and we got a good look. So I'm not terribly mad at it.
Right. And then I think the next one is a very similar set, if I'm not mistaken. So for anybody listening, the defense is set up in a 2-3, and the alignment is similar again. They place two guys on the far offensive right corner, as Coach Shea was talking about, and now they get the pop again from the guy off of the nail. And instead of the 2-3 player defensively following the pop up, this time he stays low, and they turn it into a ball screen headed towards what would be that original double side in the corner. And at the same time, the guy that was in the ball side corner, pulls under the rim and the other guy fans up. You don't get the best shot out of it, but I just like the principle of this one. This is the one when we were talking before that you kind of showed me that I drew up on a fast draw one time.
Yeah, like I said, we call this Virginia and West Virginia, same play, just two different sides of the floor. Making them make a decision where they screen wasn't great. They might have got called over it, things like that, but we still got where we wanted to go. And one thing I don't like about this play is that Elijah didn't move. So if I was watching this on film, Elijah's the guy who's in front of their bench, and he's supposed to be in the corner, and he stayed even with the guy, so he kind of let the low side defender guard him and the drive. Ideally we're taught, one of the staples of our program is the ball moves left, you move left, regardless of where you are. Ball moves right, you move right. So the ball is coming to the right. Elijah should have been going to the right. That could mean go to the corner, or it could mean cut along the baseline. But he should not have stood basically still. And that's just, he probably did it right every other time during the game. Just during this one set where we're playing it back, he didn't do what he was supposed to do, and I think that kind of led to the lack of spacing that we would like on that play.
We've got one more of this box on the ball side on the baseline out of bounds, but on this one, the guy that's on the strong side block, I think he pulls towards the camera on this, so it's a bit of a variation comparative to the last time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, just different. Different. That's terrible. Just like we drew it up, though.
Just like you drew it up.
That's just again, it's big on misdirection stuff and see what we can get away with. It's very similar to what our original play is, where misdirection to cause a dive. I think that the timing might not have been there. Matthew, the dive man, if we play it back, the guy coming from the weak side all the way to the baseline, the guy who's coming from the wing should have waited a sec. Yeah, he a little early on that, because you can kind of see the window opening up. He's just a little early to the party.
Right.
He might have, if he had waited for the big kid to clear a little more, he might have had the layup that we were looking for. But I think overall, it's just about if we can score off it right away, great.
Hang on, I'm just pulling up. So, Chris, were you saying needs to share for one of those plays?
It's when you first started talking about it.
Okay.
When we came back, you weren't sharing.
I'm sorry. And then a little late to this, but face guarding on the opposite side. James, I missed your question. What was that in reference to? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry if it's a little loud, the washers in the back. But as far as the press, the face guarding on the opposite end that you did get thrown over the top, Are you okay with the face guarding, or would you rather him?
That was player specific. That was the player that we were not helping on.
Right.
And he probably, like, that's one of those situations where he's probably so used to like how he's supposed to be in help off the ball in any of our stuff. That's what he was doing, when ideally he should have been a little bit more attached to that player, because that's what the game plan was for that player. So I think that he was in a situation where he was doing what he was supposed to do every other time. Just in that time, like, it's just not where he was supposed to be in reference to who he was guarding.
Right on.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
And then, sorry, I went and checked the questions before
You're good.
before addressing your last comment. I think you said something after him being late to the party.
I think he just should have given Samil a little bit more time to clear. He was a little early, and it kind of took away from letting Samil drag somebody with him, because the cut happened. So I think that's just a situation where, maybe his timing wasn't perfect. And again, that's one of the newer plays that we were running. So we probably hadn't been running that for more than a couple of weeks, and I'm not big on spending too much time practicing things like that in the playoffs. So
Right. This is a rotations communication clip. Offhand, I don't remember it. It starts with them with the ball in the back court. You guys are playing man when we get in. I think they just get the baseline drive, and you guys pick up the foul on it. And I do actually think it was their big best player or whatever. But it looks like you go 2 to the ball.
we're in boxing one.
Okay.
I
So
think just
what
based on how the top two guys are playing, I would say that we're in boxing. Well, actually, maybe not. I really hope we weren't. Or it could have been one of those situations where we took Justice doesn't look like he's in the game anymore, and maybe that he was the guy that was predominantly on Max. I can't see. Maybe it's the start of the second quarter based on the time on the shot clock.
we are.
Yep.
Yep. Very close. Start of the second quarter.
So I think that's a situation where not paying as much attention as you should have been in the timeout, in the quarter break, and Matt didn't realize that he was supposed to be in boxing one. But based on where everybody else is positioned, I think that's what we were in.
So in an ideal world, the one player playing one-on-one, would he be sending sideline baseline?
We force baseline. Big problem is that for some reason, the guy that you're highlighting, I have no idea why he's that far out. He's one of those kids that is, again, best player. He's the kid that forgot his shoes. So he's probably trying to figure his life out at this point. He's just getting settled into the game. He's not very fast, so I don't know why he would want to go further than he needs to. And he should know, senior, he should know that we would absolutely love it if we play it back. If we like slow down on his catch in the corner. Matthew's lost. I don't know why. Samir might have been trying to get there, not realizing Matt was going. Maybe that's why he's that far out. But ideally, Samir has his heels on the paint right now, and I would absolutely love it if Max tried to take a pull up in front of him with Matthew on his hip.
Right.
That would be perfect for me. And then Samir, again, trying to figure his life out 150 times this year, did the same thing that he's about to do, where he swings, and he's one of the kids. And then he does the "I didn't touch him" face, which is always awesome. When you slap,
like I didn't get him. I don't know what you're talking about.
The kid's bleeding, but you didn't get him, and I believe that might have been his second foul. I think he got there with like 2 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Played the last bit of the first quarter, and then I think he got 2 quick fouls, but just not good positioning. At that point, he honestly should have let him go, and weak side guy would have stepped up.
Well, we can see coach's reaction on the sideline too.
Doesn't listen.
Quick question on that. That's boxing one, right?
Yeah.
So actually, he almost didn't have to come out, right?
Yeah, but I think what had happened was coming out. Either Matthew didn't hear that he was in 40, like it was his job to guard Max. He wasn't guarded. The kid that was supposed to be getting boxing one was kind of the opposite of what we were supposed to be doing. So I think what happened was Samil saw that he was unguarded and tried to run out, didn't realize how slow he was, and Matthew beat him there anyway. It was just bad positioning all around.
We got full court pressure in a 2-2-1. It's a short clip. I think you only ran it for 2 or 3 possessions in the game. What principles are you trying to steal? Are you going for time? Are you trying to contain? What are you doing with it?
Well, one of the things that I think is different from our 2-2-1 than others is we start a lot further back. They're actually high for where I'd like them to be. Maybe, I'll give this a pass. But generally, we start our first line guys on the volleyball line.
Right.
And
so the 3-meter attack line.
Yeah, that's a wow. That was Canadian.
The 10-foot attack line.
There was
Attack line.
it's just a volleyball line. That's what it's called.
The rest of the world is metric.
Listen, man. Anyway, I think oftentimes when you see a 2-2-1, you see first line on the elbow, second line on the volleyball line, or right behind it, or the 3-meter attack line, or whatever you call it. And the last guy in the back. I'll concede the front of the court to you. I'll give you can have it.
Which is really interesting to me because a lot of the time teams are so high in my league that I'm often just telling my guys just throw over it. What are you doing? Just throw over it. Don't even worry about it.
Right, which is one of those things where I believe that oftentimes people aren't necessarily, they're doing things for the sake of doing it without real reason. And if you start higher in the 2-2-1, in my opinion, and I'm not a 2-2-1 expert, you're making the front guy work a lot harder to get to the same trap you're going to get anyway, or you're looking to get anyway. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm very big. And then you make worse than that, you make the weak side guy have to drop further to take away the middle. Whereas if you see, look how easy it is for Zero to get to the middle. He's one step from there because how high we started to take that away. Whereas if he was all the way up here, that's a long run for him. All right. And one of the things that we drill, in a warm up, we do a drill where we slide out and then we sprint to the middle with our hands out, trying to deter the pass. And that's just trying to build good habits. And Akilo did a really good job there of getting his hands up, and we got a deflection. I tell guys, if you have your hands up, the ball's going to hit you by accident. It's never going to hit your hands by accident if they're at your hips.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's never going to work. So that's a good job to turn that pass. And that probably should have been a foul on Maspeth, but for taking out his legs. But, I'm not a ref. You see me pointing at him though.
Attacking the 2-3, I think it's a similar set, and I think my question is just asking about the shot selection on this. I think you do end up in the mid-range. So same idea with the pop into the screen, and
shot clock.
Was it?
Yep.
Yeah,
shot clock. Just trust me, Terrence would never shoot that. Other than that, it's not his jam, and that's a terrible screen.
I was just gonna say, would you be correcting the screen
100%
in the game? Yeah.
He's not high enough, first of all. He should be you can see right there, that screen is doing absolutely nothing.
No.
He should be a step further out. I think he didn't realize what position he was supposed to be in terms of personnel in the game. Because right now he is our 5, and like we spoke about earlier, we don't really have positions like that. But I guess in a play like this, the biggest guy is gonna be the guy that. Well, not always, because sometimes Samil wouldn't be setting that screen that play. But I think he was just out of position, and then he got there. He kind of got there late.
I just want to point out that Maspeth's coach doesn't really like the offensive rebound and put back.
Oh, he scored? Good
Oh yeah, you got the put back and put it in.
Matthew, right? Yeah. See, that's the kid that had 30, and you didn't realize that. I didn't realize.
And then coach obviously is
7 of them.
a little disgruntled. Attacking 2-3, getting second side. It's one of the few times that I've seen action go in this game from one side to the other. So they attack left slot, they reverse, they have that same screen on the top guy. And then here we go back to the third side, I guess. Technically, you get the shot in the corner. Exactly like you drew it up, Coach?
Yes. because he's supposed to. So if we go back and we start it from the beginning of the play, this is the same play. We've run it several times, gotten different looks out of it. This is Virginia, right? Now,
Yep.
for some reason, Matthew and Elijah are flipped where they normally be. Normally, Elijah's a better shooter. He would be the guy that stayed in the corner, and Matthew would be the guy cutting the baseline. Elijah was a senior. He just decided to go. He's going a little bit too early because you want to wait till he basically comes around that screen to cut behind. Because, again, if you look at it right now, and let's pretend Elijah in the corner hasn't moved yet, he's going to be open as my ball handler comes off the screen if the guy on the wing defender stays in the corner, because who's guarding the cut? Right? Look at how the guy, X1 is getting screened. So coming off, X5 and let's call him X3, have to make a decision, right? Who stops the ball? If X5 stops the ball and X3 stays in the corner, 14 has to go over.
Right.
That guy's never going over in a 2-3 zone.
Never.
It's not what
they're be open in the short corner all the time.
Right. So Elijah's cutting a little early, but his job is to continue through, which is exactly what he did. Because if the ball gets reversed, this is what should happen. So we play it through, pop out, good.
And now they're outnumbered on the second side already.
Right. And then, like I said before, we do a really good job of making the extra pass.
Love it.
Do you ever hammer that screen? Like
I haven't. It would be. We could talk about it where you think that would be. Oh, you mean if the guy coming from the corner would hammer for 0?
Yeah. So like run it back a little bit, Menelik.
So like right about here when he's coming through.
Right. You hammer 0 hammers 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 0 could screen down. Yeah, that could. That's a pin down, not really a hammer.
Yeah, that would be like a pin down, pin in, right?
I actually thought you could be onto 2 things, because if you wait for a second.
Like we're right about here. If
you can hammer that. You could ball screen again. You could ball screen again with 30, and 0 could come off that, that ball screen or a hammer.
I mean, like a hammer, ball screen, whatever.
No, so like I think you could be onto 3 things, because Shea, I think I'm seeing it even different than what you're seeing, is on this reverse to 23 at the point. If he begins to attack, 30 that's on the baseline here can come and set a hammer or a flare screen here.
Right.
And then 0 would just continue dropping towards the drift / wing. And then on this attack, 23 is going to have the throw over the top to a wide open 3 for 0 in this area.
Right.
You could even have the attack from 23, I think, up top, right? He kind of stays in that punch area. 30 stays in that like punch, what we call the punch area, right? It causes I don't know what numbers they are, 14 to either make a decision, right?
Yeah,
and 15, or I don't know what the middle of the 2-3, but if he comes up, right, he's sitting in this punch area. That's an easy dump down right there. That's easy 2 points.
Yeah, we have a play where we ran early in the first quarter. Maybe we can show it when we're done recording. But we get a layup right in the short corner, like right away, playing on what 14 does all the time, where he flies out. So we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
But when the ball gets reversed, and again, this is one of those things that I don't think a lot of people realize, that how many things that we were taught when we were told were taboo when we were younger, actually were really important, and that I'm like completely into teaching. So the kid catching the ball as a right-handed player, there's only one way he's making this pass to a kilo, and that's with his left hand when he drives. And we practice that all the time. So he made left-handed pass on the money, guys high. We do one more shooting. We do 1 up, 1 down shooting, all things that drill stuff like this. And we've taken this shot in practice a million times. And that's at the buzzer at halftime.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it was big. So this is a big play for me. I'm always big on halftime. Like I'll give them 2 plays. Our first play out, zone and man, what we're gonna try to look for. I knew it was our ball. I expected them to come in man because we were kind of hurting their zone a little bit, especially late, where we ran the overload play and got a couple 3s on that too. My college coach was at the game, who I played for at Brooklyn College, and we could watch the play first, and I'll tell you why I reacted the way I did. Just up 14 play. We call it up, and I knew this back door was going to be there. And if you watch me right now, I point to the crowd because I'm pointing at him. I knew that he would like that. He turned to one of my college teammates who was there watching the game, and I knew he would say that's our play. And I kind of did it by design, where I'm hoping that it would work out that way. And that was cool for me, because then he busted my chops about that after the game too.
Yeah. Shea also contacted me and made sure that I got it into the edit.
I had to,
As an
man. I had to
FYI.
give a shout out to Coach Badias, man. He
Love it.
learned a lot.
Love it. This is one of the very few screen coverage clips that are in the game, just because there's so much zone. There wasn't a lot of ball screening that happened. You guys get split, and there's no roll, but there's also, like, I can't really tell where your help is coming from. Give me an idea of how you would defend this ideally.
Better.
Better. Fair.
Again, if we stop right now, it's terrible defense regardless, right? But we changed up a lot of who we put on 14. We had smaller guys on them. We had a little bit stronger guys on them. Elijah is really long, 23. His nickname was actually Bubble. I never called him Elijah because we had a different Elijah. And so we wanted to put some length on him, just kind of change up looks as much as we can, right? He should be just flat out face guarding him or full out denying him. And just by default, and if he's doing that, he's on the right side of this screen, the correct side of this screen, right? Where he would be a lot more in a position to plug with his hip than he is. He's numbers to the ball and he's in a reach, which is not good. So he just did not do a very good job of being where he was supposed to be. We tell our guys all the time, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And a lot takes care of itself. So just overall, not a good job of being where he's supposed to be. Ideally, in a normal situation, we're switching everything. So we're just switching this ball screen. I'm comfortable with Elijah guarding their point guard, for a play too, because I believe that it's not the mismatch that gets speed, it's the help. So if guys are doing what they're supposed to do, then, we should have been fine. He's just not anywhere near where he's supposed to be, even if he was full out face guarding or denying, and that kind of led to everything else. Zero is a little bit close to his man. He should be, somewhere around where the nail is, up between the free throw line and the top of the key. Again, plugging that gap before he gets there, because, I think especially at the high school level, if you're early with your help, a lot has to go right for them to beat you.
Right.
Whereas if, they have to make the right decision, make the right pass, the kid has to catch the pass, and then they have to finish, right? Whereas if you're late with your help, this happens. Like, there's no help, and he just takes a layup. Again, we'll give up a floater, but not good.
Same play as the second time we looked at it, just a better look at it camera wise, I believe.
Nope, this is Old Faithful, and he was wide open. Jesus, Justice. This is the original. Good pass.
Great pass. Also, if you could talk a little bit about play after play, about not getting the action that you want out of it, and what you sort of teach principle wise, just get it in and play, and what are you going into?
Well, firstly, if we go back to the start of the play, only Terrence is doing the right thing. In terms of pre-play, everybody on our team is supposed to be like the dive man is. They're supposed to be bent over, holding their knees. And I learned that from Bob McKillop at a clinic one time, and I thought it was really interesting, because he said that if everybody starts like that, nobody can get into your body.
Yep.
Because your body's in the way. So they can't really hold you without being seen. They can't really get into and crowd you until you move.
Grab your shirt, all that fun stuff.
We always had the dive man do that because we want to make him look like he's disinterested, and it's not for him. And we've run this multiple times in the same game before and gotten the same layup. I don't know why it works. It does. So I think it's just a situation where we're looking for it. I'm a big believer that your intention on a baseline out of bounds play should be to score. You know, I think that it's the easiest way to steal points, and I think that it's a good way for us to, maintain being successful, especially when we have a team that might not be gifted scoring, when we get easy baskets like that. And I think it's harder for kids to remember unless it's like what your set offense is. If you were to run something like a flat 1-4 that went into a flex where they have to remember a lot of moving parts. But we're so accustomed to running this, and again, this comes down to decision making, right? Very rarely do teams guard this perfectly, and I don't know what the perfect way to do that is because there's just different ways to be open here. But on this exchange, your best shooter should start. The best shooter in the game should start on the elbow, and because he's gonna get an open three if they play it a certain way. If everybody sits on the dive man, they can't sit on the dive man and take away the corner really, from experience. So, and Terrence was open. I don't know how, but he was there. He's
This
wide
is
open.
number
Wide
20
open.
for your timeout.
That's 13, yeah.
This is
Um,
15, so yeah.
Maybe that could be over the top. And when we run this play with Jayhawks, that's a dunk and not a layup. And that's a guy that you could lob the ball up to.
Yeah.
But he was still open. And I think from here, if we let it play through, it's just drive and kick, move to the left. And if you see when Matthew caught the ball in the corner, subtle drive left, you can see Zero kind of get out because Matthew's driving left and he's starting to move to his left.
Right.
You see that.
We talk about the concept of strings all the time up here. Push
Right.
versus pull, right? So like if I'm going right, I'm pulling you right.
Mhm.
If I'm driving at you, I push you away type deal.
And so that's what he was doing. So I think that helps because then Matthew got a little bit more space on his drive, and then Akilo got to rip and go. And then I think he just made a good read.
Like it. Shea, you good on time? We got about 2 or 3 more clips.
I'm good for time, man. We can talk about it.
Half court trapping, rotation
yeah.
in behind. Sorry, did somebody have something?
Yeah, can I ask a quick question on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely, Chris. Go ahead.
On the exchange? Do you encourage kind of like a blur screen? Do you encourage a little contact with the man on the way through? With the flashers, man.
Corner to elbow exchange.
So on the corner to elbow exchange, would you encourage a little bit of contact with the guy who's going to flash in for the throwdown? On his man?
I think that.
I think you could get some.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think that happens is like I don't want them to stop. I don't want the corner guys to. I don't want them to stop where like it might jumble up the dive. I found that just the misdirection in general kind of gets people to turn their heads, and that's one of the reasons that we've run so many different sets out of this now is because you can't sit on that one play, whereas we used to be able to when we only ran. This is called Georgetown. All of our baseline out of bounds plays are colleges. So I think that's one of the reasons I did that. I see what you're saying, but then it's like I feel like you can call for a moving screen. You kind of just want to get them to maybe brush each other, but it's more so their intention should be to run off each other's shoulder, and the outside the elbow guy goes outside every time.
Gotcha.
So Chris, don't be surprised if you see in the CCA a little bit of contact as this play gets run. Don't be surprised if you see that happen.
I'm just looking at that. I would time it up so that my guy who's flashing in is sort of timing, maybe coming a little bit earlier, and then use that as a brush screen on the way through.
Right, for sure. And just for anybody listening, I'm going to do a shameless plug.
Send it to me on Twitter when that works.
Yep, I will definitely do that. And just a shameless plug, I got a Twitter that's called @HoopBlobs, and all 3 of Coach Shea's variations I'm going to throw up on there. So please go follow at Hoop Blobs. All the baseline out of bounds stuff you could want. Get a couple posts a day on there. This one we were starting on just before Chris's question was a defending clip. And I think this was just you guys were trying to half court trap and got burnt on a little bit in terms of they just throw over on the side. You gambled and missed. Who should be coming out? How hard should they be closing was my question. But let's talk about your rotations, talk about the intention of the trap, all that fun stuff.
So this is green. It's a 1-2. We got 3/4 court half 1-2-1-1. Matthew is too far back, the weak side forward. I'm sorry, the guy who came to the trap late. He's he's too far back. No, I'm sorry. At half court. So
the guy who's coming to trap. Sorry.
Right, yeah. As he should have been higher right away. So like again, it's kind of similar to what he did earlier. He wasn't there on time, so it mattered. We could talk about that going for the steal in a second because that's one of my biggest pet peeves. He just wasn't where he was supposed to be and left the space for that pass. A kilo 0 should be dropping right in front of 24, and 30 should be down. So 0 should be taken away the middle. We don't care. Half court, full court, doesn't matter. We don't care if the ball goes backwards. One of my biggest,
Protecting mama.
You're right. 30 should be protecting mama for sure. But again, he knows that I guess it's a situation where he's a senior. He's been with me for 4 years at this point. He sees that Akilo is not doing his job, and he tried to take away the middle. And that kind of just created a cluster. But none of this happens if I think that's Terrence. I hate when kids go for a steal like this, like with their hand that's further away from the ball. Because one, you never get it that way. Like whoever catches the ball like this doesn't happen in basketball, really. He should have had his right hand out, and that should have been deflected out of bounds. Or you just don't go for that steal and you stay in front. Right. I think that's just we're up. I think we're still on a run. That's kind of playing too much into the emotion of the game and not just taking it play by play. Because we don't. I tell our guys that all the time. We don't go for steals. We let them make mistakes.
He wants to steal in a dunk there. That's what's happening. You guys are.
I promise you, he's not dunking. I don't think anybody on our team was.
Well, stealing a layup. There's a crowd, and you guys are up 15. It's about that time.
Turnover though. I guess we cause a travel or something in the corner.
This one is just a full court attacking clip. They had a little bit of full court man pressure. You get turned once. I find the reason I put this in, first of all, this looks kind of dribble drive-ish, like on the flip pass across, your right slot player goes to the opposite side. You get a double gap. He attacks strong hand into it. But I find that a lot of teams have real difficulty when they are full court pressured, then being able to construct something in the half court because they don't really work on that transition between the two. And I'm wondering if you've deliberately put something in here or this is just good basketball action.
We knew that they could not really stay in front. Good pass, Terrence. We knew that they would have trouble staying in front of us if we did what we were supposed to do. So that's intentional. We're that's called open. That's slot to slot is an opposite corner blast cut. Right. And we're gonna create that double gap. Matthew's too high. He should be in the corner or ready to cut back door. But that's kind of like the brush cut Coach Bogart was looking for, I guess, earlier, like similar, like just kind of get in his way, drive right off his back.
So
dribble drive.
Sorry to interrupt you, Shea. Up here, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like for us, a lot of the time the brush, there's enough contact on it to kind of like we sometimes call it a traffic screen too. So like the real common action that you would see is like the horns set where you enter to one forward and then the guard comes straight down and then the other forward just kind of brushes off their back and there's enough contact with their man that it's kind of a screen.
Yeah, you can't really call him for anything because he's just running away.
Yeah,
but that's all by design. We do something like where it's open. Where if it's in that situation, we're 4 out 1 in. Sick finish. If we go slot to slot, it's gonna be we call that a blast cut, and then if we go we also might put in something that where we fan away.
Okay.
He might have he could have gone slot to slot there, and instead of blast cutting, he would have sprinted to the strong side, well, to the same side corner, and Matthew would have gone back door, creating the same double gap. But then you just can't sit on that pass.
So then from those, are you calling those like a primary and secondary transition, and then you're flowing into like a half court option, or are you just trying to teach your guys to play?
We are, it's funny that you said flow, because that's what our base offense is just called flow. Like where we might, doesn't matter whether we were 4 out, 1 in, or 5 out. We're doing the same concepts. We're passing, and we're gonna blast cuts, opposite. Or if we were 5 out in this situation, we were just in flow and not open. He would do something similar. He would fan away and he would drive off that gap, and then it's move right, move right, drive left, move left type things. And we did a good job this year. We got a lot of cuts from the 45. I think that's because it was one of the first drills we did every day, where we would get 45 cuts and play off that. I think Matthew could have done a lot of different things there. He could have cut back door. Him staying there made the closeout longer. Bad pass kind of got floated there.
Yeah.
But I think we did a good job playing off of it, and making decent decisions where a good ball fake and a bingo. Got to finish that, but there's Matthew again, just cleaning up the mess. He did a good job that day.
Love it. So that brings me to the end of my video. I think we got one in here. Exact point came up in a session.
We talk about the McKillop comment.
Nice. All right. So first off, for anybody who's watching, this one's obviously going to get edited a little bit because we got bombed. So I'll be changing the Run It Back link for next week. Huge shout outs to all of the coaches who jump on weekly. Really appreciate you guys. Coach Smalls, Coach Barrett, Coach Covell, CB's on here all the time, and Coach Lucic. You guys you're awesome. I really appreciate you guys because you're pretty much in all of these lately. Shea, thanks so much for your time, man. I've mentioned it to you before, but I really respect what you're doing, man. I know you care about the kids that you coach, and I think you do a great job. So that's an excellent combination at the high school level. I wanted to mention this. I guess it's sort of, a pat on the back towards Run It Back or whatever. But Coach Shea said something to me that I thought was silly when we were in preparation of this. He was like, you've got G League guys and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll talk to any level because I think there's good coaching at every level. And I think Coach Shea is a real tribute to that. He really is a good coach, in my opinion. And has been doing wonderful things for the guys that are in his organization. I know Jayhawks are going to be super competitive as well this year. But that being said, I like to give thank you every week to the coaches that jump on, and obviously to everybody who tunes in and listens. Next week, we're going international twice. So for any coaches who want to jump on, please do so. We've got Francesco Nani coming in from Pali 40, which is in Italy. And then we've got KJ Smith joining us, who is from Brazil's A-level at Unifasca, I believe is the name of the team. I'll get it right by then. And let's not forget, I will definitely throw in the link here as well that Coach Shea runs an excellent clinic, the Adam Street Clinic. I'll put the link in. You guys should go and check it out. I think there's 4 or 5 sessions that are available online right now. I highly recommend. He sent them all to me, and I've been through a lot of this stuff that's in there. He's got some excellent speakers that come out and run in a very professional manner, a lot of good basketball stuff. So again, obviously that link will go in. And I think I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is right now. Coach Shea, thanks for keeping it professional when things broke down a bit there, because it flustered me a little bit. That actually kind of upset me when people jumped on. So appreciate you. And thank you for all your time. And if anybody else doesn't have anything, I think I'm going to cut the recording there. Shea, hang around for a bit, man. Let's talk.
Yeah, for sure. We can do some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier with the plays and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. See you guys next week on Run It Back.